Do you remember the last time you were really thirsty? I mean, like you were just parched. You wanted something to drink. Where I live, it gets to about 106 degrees, sometimes higher than that. And you can get really thirsty. But I think we live in a culture of people that are thirsty, whether we're a student, educator, parent, anybody. We get thirsty. And we get thirsty for water, but we also get thirsty for affirmation. Affirming, people affirming who we are, something we've done. In this episode of the Choose Well Program podcast, we're talking about that. Affirmation Day. I'm joined by Stephanie Feagin, who actually has an affirmation day in her class for her students. And she tells great stories. And I've been around students who, when they receive affirmation, it's like a thirsty man getting some water for the first time, because I think we're all starving for it. I mean, look at what we do in our world with social media. Social media gives us affirmation, and I think some people are on it for that reason. So we're going to talk about healthy ways to get affirmation. We're going to talk about how everybody needs AAA, and I'll explain what that is in the episode. So join us. Just keep listening. Keep watching for this episode of the Choose Well Program podcast, Affirmation Day. Oh, yeah. All right, we talked about doing a teacher tidbit, so we're going to do one right now. Teacher tidbit with Stephanie Feagin. What is your tidbit today?
Okay, so a few years ago, went to a training. It was capturing kids' hearts, and they had us all write compliments, affirmations to each other. And so I tried to figure out a way I could do that in the classroom with my students. So I just decided one day I would start it, and I guess I've been doing it for 6-7 years now. So I have a stick, have one for each student with their name on it. And, and I use them in class when I pick names, because I try to do everything random.
Okay. So instead of just calling the kid, you just pick a popsicle stick. Okay.
Yeah. And so when we do compliments, I pass out little sheets of paper so they all have the piece of paper. So I pass out the stick, and I pass it out to them upside down so they don't see the name on the stick. And they're not allowed to look at it until I tell them they can look at it all at the same time. And so they have to write a compliment to that student, whoever's name is on the stick. And it has to be something, you can't be, you are cool. You are
something
pretty.
With some substance.
You have pretty hair. I'm like, you guys see each other every day in here, especially COVID year. We can't interact with any other class. It's just us. So you need to say something you notice about them. And, and you need to, say something nice. It has to be nice. And sometimes I actually had an instance for the first time this year where the kid refused to write a compliment to a student. So the rest of the class volunteered to write one. So this kid ended up with like 27 compliments from the rest of the class.
Wow, that's better than some other punitive thing.
Yes.
Because if this kid won, the kid wouldn't have ended up with anything, but now he ended up with more. And I wonder how that kid felt who refused to do it.
Yeah. But okay, so then let me tell you how we pass them out. So they all write their compliment, and they fold it over because they're not supposed to show anybody. So when it's time to pass them out, I pick somebody randomly, and they go pass it to that person, and they hand it to them, and they look them in the eyes, and one person says thank you, and the other person says you're welcome, and then they're allowed to walk away and go sit down. So so I make them look at each other in the face and say thank you and you're welcome, because they don't do it. They'll pass it off and just walk away and not do anything. I'm making them thank each other. And some of them will just stand there.
And not say thank you?
Well, it takes them a second to say thank you and you're welcome. They kind of forget sometimes. And then we all read them together. They have to hold on to them, and then we all read them at the same time.
Quietly read them to yourself.
Yeah.
What has been the reaction?
You should see the smiles on their faces. I mean, there's been times when, is this a compliment? I don't know if this is really good.
Got to work on your compliment skills.
I can't read this writing. There's been a few occasions where it's been interesting, but 99% of the time over the past 7 years when I've done it, it's been positive. And,
right.
And then when we first do it, it's only the stick. But as time goes on, I'll tell them, okay, you need to write a compliment for an adult on campus. You need to write a compliment for an aide. You need to write a compliment for one of our janitors because they work hard for us. They deserve some positivity. Or it's a free choice. You can give it to anybody else.
But every Friday, they're learning the practice of affirming or complimenting someone else.
Yes.
And that's so interesting because I believe everybody needs AAA, acknowledgement, acceptance, and affirmation. I believe everybody needs that at some point. And there's you look at our world today. Why do so much of us spend time on social media? Because we get those three things from social media. Even though it's pseudo, we get it. We get acknowledgement. People look at our posts. We get acceptance. They like our posts, or they like our friend. They become friends, or they follow us. That says you're accepted. And we get affirmation. They like our stuff. And so we thrive on that as human beings. And so I think it's important that that comes from a better place, from the people we live with, people we're in the same culture with. And even though we may have issues, to be able to get that from somebody that's a real human being that I see across the desk from me, or an adult I look up to, is important. And I think because we have a generation, we're starving for it. That's why the smiles are so big, because it's like thirsty to a water to a thirsty person.
Well, you know, and I've heard a couple weeks ago, one of the kids, I think they didn't necessarily know this other student very well, but when the other student wrote a compliment to them, they ended up talking at recess, and now they're friends.
Right.
You know, and I tell them, I don't expect all of them to be friends with each other. I don't live in a camp where everybody is friends.
But they need to respect each other.
Exactly. I tell them they need to be kind and they need to respect each other, but you don't necessarily have to be their friend and do everything with them all the time, because people are different. And some people just are kind of like oil and water, and they're just not going to mix very well. But you need to be kind and you need to respect them. And so doing the compliments and everything really, you know, because I tell them someday when they're going to go get a job, and they might not like everybody at their job.
They might not like their boss.
But you're going to have to be nice to them.
And respect them.
And so practicing it now. We're starting to practice these kinds of good choices and things that will help us be successful later on now. Yeah. Because we need to try to see the good in people, even when they might not be our friends or be our favorite people.
And this is something I think is very important for culture of a school. Doing this, not just with the kids, but with the adults. I've done this exercise in my professional development workshops with adults. And it's so interesting. I see two things. Number one, they're all hesitant to do it, for one. And then when they do it, many of them have a hard time speaking directly to the person they're complimenting. They will say, I want to affirm Susie because she does. No. Talk to them. Say, I appreciate you, Susie, because you do X, Y, or Z, or this happened before, the way you engage with kids, and whatever it is, they have a hard time just speaking to the person. It is so interesting to watch. Sometimes I'll say, hey, can you pause a second and just say it to that person? And to see the person, first of all, as adults, we need it, and we'll receive it, but then we try to deflect it. We try to push it away and go, no. I said, don't do that. Just receive it and say thank you. And when they do, they smile. And it's so encouraging. And what if every Friday the team at school did that with each other? I'm not saying you won't have problems still, but they'll be different. Yeah. Because you'll start to see and appreciate each other. Because I don't know what it is about human nature, but we focus on negative so easily. Like
totally.
If you think about somebody you work with right now, think about the person that you don't get along with. You'll think about all the negative things they've done or the negative interactions. But if you're forced to think about something positive they've done or something you appreciate about them, it changes you and it changes them when they hear it from you.
Yeah. Well, and if it's okay, it's happening every Friday, so I have to pay a little more attention to see something positive that they're doing and to think about it. You're thinking, your mindset is changing to think about positive actions this person can be doing. What's positive about them? And if and you don't know who you're going to get, so you're trying to pay attention to all the different people. So it's focusing on just more positive things in this world instead of all the negative.
And it changes you as a person. As you say, today I got to write my affirmation. I got to look for something these kids are doing good. And I like to go deeper than saying something they did, but something about their character. Like, yes, you did this, but I like the fact that you are this kind of person because you're speaking life into them. And how many of us need life spoken into us? Life beats you up every day.
Well, and I try to tell them, like, you can say, I noticed that you are a very kind person because I always want them to give a reason why. And I can take this a step further and tell you, like, we have awards, student of the month, all that kind of stuff. I don't choose them. My students choose them. Wow. They nominate people, and then they tell me why this person deserves the award.
See, and I think what you're teaching them is to look outside themselves with all these things and not just look inside themselves. I think a lot of our world is teaching us to look at us. What about me, right? But I think I would be that kid. If you wouldn't have taught this, every week I'm nominating myself. I'm the student of the week.
I have some that ask if they can nominate themselves, but it's very rarely, it's like one or two maybe.
And they're learning the practice of looking outside themselves, which is great because we all want the award. And we did this with some schools. We do the Hello, Mr. Brown Choose Well Award, or we call this the Choose Well Award now. And so the teachers would pick a student or two students of each grade to get the award, and they get a T-shirt, they got all stuff, but it's based on not academics. It's not based on sport. It's based on just seeing them just choosing well, that they were caught choosing well, right? And so before we give the award, I'll make sure I tell the kids, hey, we want to celebrate the kids who did get it. You didn't get it this time, and that's understandable, but I want you to celebrate because when you get it, you want somebody to celebrate you. And it's so cool to see the kids celebrate the kid who won the award.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you're teaching them as well. So how do you, so I like this idea. I think it's something that can be implemented like I do with the educators, but how do we do that with the parents? See, and you asked a question earlier, you look at the parents who are doing drugs, the parents making bad choices. How can we find a way to affirm them? Because everybody needs AAA, acknowledgement, acceptance, and affirmation. So one of the ways to connect with these parents is how can you affirm them? And it's hard because you see the blaring mistakes they're making with their kids, the choices they're making that's hurting their kids, but is there something that
if you find any positive thing that you can reward them for, or just to let them know, say, hey, you're doing a great job right here. It was great to hear from you, or something of the sort.
Right.
I mean, like we have our Blooms app, which is on the, on our
Blooms.
Phones. Yeah. It's a parent communication app. And then there's, text messaging. So maybe if a parent just even, one of the ones that needs a little bit extra support, just finding any nugget that you can praise them for.
Right. Like your perseverance. You keep showing up. Like, thank you for showing up.
Yeah.
Like, thank you for being there. And I think it takes a lot to do that because we can talk all day, because I think we live in this world where we believe that two things can't exist at the same time. Like, if you do anything wrong, I can't ever agree with you. I can't ever point out something you did was good. Like I was watching a story recently where this employer fired somebody for some things that this person disagreed with, but they still use this guy's product. And they say, his product is good. His product has helped me to do this. But two things can exist at the same time. This product can be good that you made, and what you said over here is really good, but what you did over here is wrong. Yeah. And I don't agree with that. And somehow in our world, we've lost the ability to do that, because we think when I say something good about you, I affirm something you did, then I'm saying everything you've done is well. And that's not true. I think that acceptance piece, even when it comes to acceptance, I can accept a child and say, I accept you, I love you, but I don't accept that behavior you did. I'm not giving approval of that behavior, but I accept you as a person.
Yeah.
And if we can learn how to do that, our world will be a better place.
100% agree.
So we got to talk about that in more detail on another podcast.
Definitely.
I like that teacher tidbit, affirmation, or what you call it, Compliment Friday, or something like that. You call it
I just call it compliments. And the kids ask, are we doing them today? They love them. It's like their favorite time.
And what a way to teach them to receive it and to give it. Like I think they're probably like both. And if you teach kids to do that, man, you're setting them up for some.
Some of them get really elaborate and they draw really pretty pictures on them, and they just really care. Some of them will give little treats, whatever they have. It's just really cute.
This is 5th grade, 4th and 5th grade?
Yeah. Well, I've done it with both 4th and 5th.
Yeah. And I think they're old enough to do that. And if they practice that, man, that's going to be great.
Right.
So now your next job is to do that with the teachers. Every Friday, teachers got to do it.
So I've done it a couple times with them, but I think it would be nice to do it a little bit more often.
I think I want to talk to some of the schools I work with and see if that's something they can implement at school-wide. Like, is there a way to make a habit of affirming everybody in the school? Because that every week, everybody in the school, teachers, parents, yard duty, everybody will have been affirmed about something in their life.
Yeah.
I think that would be amazing.